Okay, am I live? I think I am live, but am I all the way live? Let me plug this in so I can plug in my phone. Oh, let me not curse on front of the good people of the internets. Second. Let me see if I can find. Oh shit! Oh no, I don't mean to be watching myself. Wait, how do I turn that off? Yeah. Okay, so I can watch the feed now. Sorry, it's my first time doing this. If there's anybody here, say hey, so I can make sure I know you're there and get to your questions if you have any while I'm talking about this stuff. So I'm going to delve into the topic of belting, or a form of loud singing, while at the same time maintaining FTM, or no, MTF. I'm gonna get to that at some point too. But MTF, vocal technique. Where is the thing? I am too old for this. Okay, let me close that. I said close that. Get. Oh God, I swear to God, I could have swore I started it up. Did it go away? Oh, there we go. Okay. Awesome. Now let me switch into screen share mode. Share. Okay, awesome. No, oh, it's the infinite loop. Okay, present to everyone. Oh, holy God. The void that is my life. Okay. I guess somebody message. Okay, there's one person watching, I think. Can y'all still hear me? Now I'm doing the screen share thing. Let me play myself a little bit. One of the good people of the internets. Oh shit! It archives it. Oh, holy fuck! Okay, what's happening? I need to stop cursing. Okay, good. Okay, it's keeping up. Okay, so about to talk about this trans voice, but first, let me let everybody in my phone contacts know about this. If you have any questions in general about belting, even if you're not trans, I'm probably going to answer some of those as well. So stick around. Because I think we're probably going to start this for real on CPT. Where is the? I posted it in the Discord. Oh, I should have put my social media in the. Oh, I don't know. I'm not smart. I am not smart. I should have put my social media. I need this come up. Be able to pay my rent. Okay. Copy the link. No, bitch. Wait. Okay, let me put that in my little WhatsApp feed. I guess it's already a swear word in the title of this whole thing. Okay. Oh, now that I sent that out, let's see if anybody is saying anything. Oh, hey. Yeah, pizza man. Let's mess it up. Okay. So I think I'm still screen sharing, and let me go back to the document. So if you want to follow along in the document where I'm at, I suggest you use the link in the description, which I should edit my no, because ain't nobody even gonna be here. Like, I don't know why I'm acting like this is so serious. Okay, so now that we're getting started, this question is in to me from I want you to keep in mind, this is a 14-year-old girl asking me this advanced ass question. So without further ado, let's sort of talk about how I began to sort of like start doing background research and what prompted me to really look at this issue. So she says, first of all, if you're wondering how I know of you, I've been lurking in art singing for a good 3 years and have seen your name on several occasions. From what I gathered, it appears that you are a voice teacher with significant experience with vocal techniques. So basically, my question here is about manipulating resonance while maximizing squillo at the same time. So for those of you that don't know what resonance is, I'm going to be doing a podcast. And when I archive this, I'm probably going to include a link to the podcast, a podcast with my friend Matt Johnson at Vocalogical. If you search Vocalogical on Google or Facebook, it should probably be one of the first results that comes up. So we're about to do this fresh podcast on resonance. So like, what does that even mean? So then she encloses 4 examples of different belts and then talks about her own specific journey with belting, and we'll get into all that. And because I have adult ADD, now I'm gonna switch into my little outline where I talk about all the different stuff entailed in belting and transverse at the same time. So this outline is also available for y'all to move around, so you can like click the links. There's a couple links in there. It's also available for y'all to move around in the description, excuse me, oh Lord, of this video. So squillo, basically what you need to know about that is squillo is a sort of penetrative power. That's what she said. A penetrative power of the voice to sort of like, even if it's not particularly loud, it still feels like a voice that sort of like is penetrating. You can hear it from a distance in a very like salient, bright voice. And it's like, have you ever heard the whole thing about like, oh, opera singers have to be able to sing over an orchestra, so because they didn't have mics back then, so their voices had to be able to do that. So what the hype is over in opera in terms of like what people are saying is like, that is that strength of opera that refers to squillo. And there's 2 ways that are widely accepted of producing squillo. And the first one is used more in modern stuff like musical theater. It's twang. We won't talk about what exactly it is right now, but it sounds like this. So if you've ever listened to really, really typical musical theater singers, you'll get this kind of voice. So what's a musical theater song? It's like, I wanna be a part of it, New York, New York. So that kind of voice. And then the other thing is like this applies to modern voice as well, but this is the kind of like opera doesn't really do twang, but opera does a little bit more of the chord contact quotient. So your vocal cords, while they, let me switch on the video so you can see this analogy I'm about to make with my hands. I'm about to do these hand symbol jutsus. 1 second. I'm so old. This is so difficult. Wait. Screen sharing. Okay, now I'm gonna this is gonna put it back on the video. Okay, yes. Yeah, I can read, I can fight. Okay, so while the vocal cords move like this, they also sort of like go in and out from each other like this. So this gives you like the pitch essentially, and this motion gives you the sort of density of the sound. I'll do a demonstration of it real quick. So like the vocal cords kind of look like this, but they also sort of like swim. Oh, 4 viewers, I'm so popular. Okay, so now let me switch back to screen share. Share. Yes. Present to everyone. Yes. Okay. I don't know. Like, I guess they have that little check if like people got porn on their screen or something. Okay. So, when the chords, like when they're swimming in and out and apart from each other like that, if they spend more time apart, the sound tends to be lighter. So if I raise my closed quotient, raise my open quotient, which is how much time the vocal cords spend apart when they're swimming, my voice starts to get lighter, even if I do really low notes. It still sounds lower and lighter and more feminine than if I speak at around the same pitches, but now I have a higher closed quotient because my vocal cords are gliding together more. So that's sort of like a density. And so somewhere in the middle of that lightness and that heaviness, there's this sort of like golden spot where the voice becomes really bright and it's kind of in your ear. So that's those are two different forms of squillo, and we'll probably come back to both of those later. So what is belting? For those of you who don't know, a lot of people have like a lot of different definitions of belting, and I'm going to go over the belts that they cover in the Good Ass Question. But for those of you just joining us, the Good Ass Question, the link, I can speak English, I swear to God. The link is in the description, or the doobly-doo, whatever people call it, of this video that you're watching right now. So what is belting? Is it loud? Is it long? Is it strong? Is that what she said? We're going to find out. So let's first pick out the first belt that this anonymous asker sent us, and hopefully this link goes. The links that you click, some of them are a little bit messed up. Oh no, not the ads. Not the ads. I'm trying to be professional. Okay, wait. Every time I sing along, ooh, damn, that's scary. They know I'm singing. So that was the first one that she sent along. So what did I say about that belt? It's a C5, I believe. Let me play that just to verify. Yep, that's definitely C5. So it's a very light version of what I would call, or what is called, I have a bad habit of doing that in this, chest register. So for those of you who are really not familiar with the different registers, chest is what people talk in, and a good test that I use to indicate whether or not you're in chest is like, can your voice crack? Because your voice cracks into head registers, like if you ever made that kind of like teenage voice crack sound, the what that basically is your voice moving from chest into head register. So chest to head register. So that sound, that popping sound is what I use as the litmus test of whether or not you are in chest. So I think that this belt clip that she posted, I would say it's in chest because it has that kind of sound. It doesn't make the pop, but you start to tell after a while, like, okay, this has that sort of like meatier sound, or like this head voice doesn't have quite as meaty of a sound. So that had like a little bit more of a meaty sound to me, but it was sort of like on that edge. If y'all want to listen to it again, the link, in fact, let me play that back one more time. Okay, so there was definitely some like almost slight scratchiness, not in a bad way or anything, but it's like it's this almost slight scratchiness that you get when you're actually using. Let me see if anybody said anything in a little chat. Okay, nobody said anything. So there's this slight scratchiness that you get when you're actually, I think, in chest. So me doing that belt in chest register would be more like, and I think it starts to get that sort of like edge, that like that meatiness that you wouldn't have necessarily if I did it in my head register. So you can get kind of close, but I don't think it's quite as thin as that, but it's definitely not as heavy as, say, like the heaviest chest belt. So like so like something like heavy and dense like that, it's not necessarily there, but I don't think it's light enough to be like, I don't know. Y'all be the judge. So something to keep in mind when listening to this clip is that he sort of like moved in and out from the mic. And I think like if you notice, if you play it back, when he moves out from the mic a little bit, you hear some of that buzzing, that like sharpness of the belt go away some. And I don't think it's like a technical thing. I don't think anything about his voice changed. I think he just moved back away from the mic and you lost some of that. Because I'd be going through the spirit and having convulsions and stuff when I do belt. Belting is hard, y'all. So like I back away from the mic, and I think when I do that, when other people do that, you lose some of the sound information that's happening in the belt. Like you don't hear all the parts of it. You hear like the loudest parts of it start to overtake. So you don't hear that like slight little scraping. And then the other thing is that the reverb can sort of mask sound quality, and there's definitely some like touching up on that mic. It wasn't like pure raw live vocals. So Levance Colley is up next on the list. The second clip that she sent me. Please, no ads, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. So, actually, no, that's a C#6. I think I put B5 in my thing, but not C#6. I think that's a regular C6. But no, that is higher than Ariana Grande's belting capacity that's demonstrated by like range compilations of her voice. That is like the tippity top. So, what was I gonna say? What do I think of this note? So, first of all, good God, like that is some difficult stuff. If you listen to it, I think like listen to the quality of it in and of itself. I think it has like a certain density that you just can't get. Like if you try to shout up there in head voice, like, I don't think like, even if I kind of do aggressive stuff in head voice, if I sort of lean into it with what I consider to be like a very head voice mode, you don't get this like solidness. But if I do what I consider to be belting, it gives, I think, more of that edge that you hear in his voice. So that'd be like, like that, I think, is more like what he does than like that. I think it's like theatrics that sort of emulate the style of like the bodaciousness of how he delivered that. But I don't think that the same intensity was there in terms of just how like meaty that sounded. But the test for me that makes me think that that's more like of a belt that's dragging chest, and we'll talk about what dragging chest even means. What is more of like a solid thing to me that confirms that is when you have continuity with other chest notes. So if I'm going from a chest note into a head note, as we talked about earlier, my voice is going to break. So it's going to be like, or like if I do a belt and break, I'll be like, like all those had a pop. But if I'm not in chest to begin with, I'm not going to have that pop. So like if I do a head note, I don't get the pop with head, because like head is continuous with head, chest is continuous with chest. So if I do like a head note, I can't pop. But if I do like a chest note into another chest note, I can't pop either. So that is like, doesn't pop. I couldn't pop that sound if I wanted to. So I'm under the impression that that is chest. So testing it in that range in terms of like if I drag up with chest and get a similar result versus if I just like skip up with head voice and break and see what that sound result sounds like. See if you guys can tell the difference, because I'm going to start with belt and I'm going to end up head the first time. I'm going to end up chest the second time. So first time. I think it's around the note. So I'm going to start from this as like the bottom note. Oh, wait. Am I doing chest or head this time? Crap, I forgot. I'm gonna do head first this time. Like, I don't think that had as much meat as if I continuously sort of like drag up and keep the intensity as I go up. Oh God, I should have had something to drink. So like that. I had to sort of like dip a little bit to find the strength to go on as I kept going up. But I think that sound to me sounds more continuous with what Levance is doing in that clip that we're talking about here. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, the clips that I'm talking about, the clips that are like going to be on the screen are, let's see if anybody else said anything. Oh, no, nobody else said anything. Okay, so the clips I'm talking about on the screen right now are in the description. So yeah, so that's the second one. So the third one, let's get to that. And I think this one is gonna have some errors with the link. Let me fix that real quick. If you click the link, it has this little like dash in it. I don't know how to fix that. I should have went in and directly fixed it, but I don't know how to do it on Facebook. But just like delete that slash and it takes you to the right location. Okay, so I think what sets us up, I'm gonna just like cut to the chase and be like, that's a good M2 mix, but I think that it's definitely an M2 mix, unlike the other sounds, because there's that very obvious break with chest. And if that wasn't obvious enough, I think like when he comes back down after that note, those are obviously head to me. It's supposed to. So, what was I gonna say? So I think that is a very well-rounded, good mix, but still a definitely a mix. In fact, let me go down to this. So yeah, you have the break preceding, and you have continuity with the head note coming down. So like, where do you get the breaks? When you're switching registers. I heard a break going up from a note that sounded more obviously chest, and then I did not hear any kind of switch going down. And those switches can be masked, so it's a little bit complicated, but I think like 9 times out of 10 this probably plays out. So the M2 is still powerful, but do people consider that belting? Is that a part of belt? We'll get to that in a second, but another thing that if you look at this document, which again, the link is in the description of this live stream, where, oh, no, I don't think she mentioned it here. I think she mentioned it. Yeah, she mentioned it in a message to me. But a lot of people talk about like, okay, if you're just dragging chest up, you're just yelling. If I'm going like, it's supposed to, the first one's like, oh, I'm yelling, I'm gonna hurt my voice. It's like, if I thought that this was gonna hurt my voice, this is how I make my living. I'm not gonna do something that hurts my voice. But it is draining. I'm gonna say that, and I'll talk a little bit more about the safety stuff later. So it's like, if it is draining, like why even bother doing it? And to me, I think it just has more meat and more power, and it is more authentic in like a lot of genres. Like certain parts of musical theater, it is a lot more authentic to actually M1 belt. In gospel, definitely, even more so than musical theater. Gospel, you are either belting, or if you can't, you better add some distortion to your head voice to make up for it. Like if you're not gonna do like a clean belt, like if you're not gonna do one of those, like, and you're gonna do a thing in head voice, you're not just gonna do like you're gonna like you're giving your whole heart, because you need to make up for the slack that you putting in by not dragging your chest all the way up. So it's more like a and like that. I think that's why you hear that so much in gospel, because if you can't do it and you still want that level of energy, you got to add that distortion, because M2 just cannot get the same level. However, though, I feel like you can really change the color of M2 in a way that you can't with M1. M1 doesn't have, I feel like, as many settings. M2 is like a little bit safer, but I feel like it can do more. It can be like louder, it can be softer. You can change the dynamics a little bit more. You can change the color a little bit more, and it's like flexible. It's not as hard to use. Oh, somebody is looking at this document with me. Oh my God. Okay, so next thing that they bring up is a trans woman herself that talks about yelling on this matter. Again, delete the little slash that you're gonna see here.
But so I know it's
A video that I really want to hip y'all to on this matter is look up. I'm gonna type it. I'm gonna type in the search bar.
And you're gonna know you.
Oh, no, stop. So look up Ziana trans voice in 2 minutes or something like that. So look that up. Really good discussion. Like, and just even though it's just those 2 minutes, she's not even talking about that. It's the whole thing. She's like touching on it real quick, and she just like demolishes the whole like, yes, you can yell with your trans voice. You don't have to be soft and breathy in order to present as feminine. So if you want to see that like theory get wrecked, then I'd suggest clicking over to that video after I talk about this one or after the stream, because you're supposed to be watching me right now. But yeah,
when you feel like that pingy, that twang is what they call it, and is like the official term for it, is gonna that's gonna be there. Pingy, hey.
Okay, so I'm thinking from based on what she's saying and then what she does, I think she is talking about like the same kind of twang definition that we talked about in the beginning of this video. That is the technique that people use to get ring in their voice, to make the voice penetrating. So the thing about that is what I was talking about earlier. So the thing about that is that it makes your voice more penetrating, but doesn't make it louder. So I can have a quiet voice that has like a higher energy, and it sounds a little bit more in your ear and whatever. Or I can have like a really loud voice that doesn't have as much density and it's kind of dark, but it's louder, so you like you still hear it, but it just might not be as like crisp and clean and in your ear and it's attention grabbing as like this voice that is quieter but really bright. So so I think twang tends to like change that tonality, and it helps people like pick your voice out, but doesn't necessarily make it louder. And I think when people are yelling, that is mainly a function of getting louder, because you have people with bright voices and you have people with dark voices, and all of them can yell. So I don't think that entirely captures the science. I think she's good at what she does, but I don't think that captures the entire meat of what it means to yell, to just like brighten your voice, to sort of give it that femininity and brightness. But that itself, I don't think necessarily accomplishes the goal of making you louder. What I think you really have to look at is taking your chest voice and turning it into, I'm gonna make this hashtag trend, breast voice. I want to make like a whole line of pedagogy just about like taking your chest voice, taking the voice that you like talk with, not going up into like you're registered doing like Mickey Mouse, and then trying to turn that into a woman. It's like you can turn your regular chest voice that you talk with, like it's chest, so like it breaks with its chest. I can turn that into something way more feminine without having to switch up into another register. And I think there's not enough people really making that information available. There's a lot of temptation of people to just like, oh, well, I'm gonna go in head voice now, I'm a girl. Like that's the way that a lot of people approach it. Okay, so going back down and talking with my regular horrible annoying voice. When you go to be loud, I think the best mechanism to do that, and what people naturally go for, is chest. Like when you yell at someone across the street, you're not like, oh, hey, watch out, you're gonna get hit. Like who does that? When do they do that? It's like, oh, watch out, you're gonna get hit by a car. Like people yell like it breaks. You're gonna get hit by a car. Like I break it because it is chest and it can be broken. So I was gonna say, yeah, people yell naturally. That's something. Yell if you ever see this video. You need to yell. I have one student that I'm really trying to get to work on yelling, and in order to really access that form of phonation that people access in times of trouble. It's like it's there to be used. You really have to dig into that and not treat it as like, I don't think you should just like purely yell when you use it in a song context, but you can't treat it as this thing that is just so different from like belting is something that is so different from yelling, because I don't think you can get that natural heavy sound by using head voice. So the turning and stretching that we went over. Okay. Now, I think where this comes into play is if you look at the 55-second mark of that same video. Can I do it? Can I do this? Yes. Let me not get this ad, please. She gives another example of yelling. I think something interesting happens. I want y'all to see this.
It takes time to get there, but the point is you should be able to get there. What the fuck? Why would you do that? Hey! Hey!
So I think she switches up, and to me, like it sounds like it doesn't sound masculine at all to me, but it doesn't sound normal to me. It sounds like maybe like an older woman that doesn't, her voice is like frail and she has to resort to yelling and head voice. It doesn't sound like the way she looks to me. Like it sounds a little bit older, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. What do y'all think? Has anybody been leaving any comments? Oh my God. Okay. You don't hear me? Okay, wait. Okay, great. I don't know who Liliana is. I'm sorry. I hope you hear me. Okay. Wait, question. Oh, yay! Hey, Liliana, you asked a good ass question. Oh my God. Thank you for coming and watching the video. Yeah, I guess she sort of outed herself. So yes, this a brilliant genius 14-year-old is now watching this video with us. Amazing. I hope she can hear the audio at some point. So when she was like, hey, stop that! Like, I don't think it was, to me, it's something that sounded as like, sure, it doesn't sound bad. It just doesn't sound like normal, like what I would expect. Like if you go to watch like Trans Voice in 2 minutes, if you listen to Ziana Bell, I think, or not Bell, but yell, like, hey, stop that! Like that is what sounds more natural to me than like, hey, stop that! Like that fluctuating, hey, stop that! Like you hear the sort of like register switch noises. That doesn't sound like a part of normal yelling. That sounds like, oh, maybe her voice is hoarse, maybe she's old. It sounds like a woman, but not like one with a regular voice. Okay, so my opinion overall, what I think is raise the open quotient, but stabilize M1. Because when you raise that open quotient, what we were talking about before with the vocal cords gliding, that can make belt a little bit harder to do. Because when we do belt, we want to clamp down. When we yell, our instinct tends to be to clamp down. And with AMAB bodies, when they have like larger vocal cords and everything, like, and you're clamping down with everything you've got tends to be more than what the normative female voice has. So if I yell, let all my meat hang out, my vocal meat hang out, that is going to come into the fact that I suddenly lose this like feminine illusion. It's like I'm speaking with like an open quotient, higher open quotient right now. I'm not really changing anything else about my voice. I'm not talking at a particularly higher pitch, but now my voice is suddenly like a lot more feminine. So if I go to yell and I drop and I go back into like that constricted higher closed quotient sound, and I do that while I'm yelling, that sort of breaks the illusion. So if I go to yell and I'm like, hey, stop that! Like that's like that's clockable. So yeah, back to my, I forgot what my natural voice was for a second. That was all a dream. So my ruling on the thing overall, I think True Belt, in my opinion, is M1. There's definitely a place for M2, or what I call, or what is called, what I keep doing that, taking credit for people's ideas, or faux belting. So it's called faux belting in this document. I showed this to Liana. Y'all feel free to click on it to, in fact, let me click on that real quick right now. Hopefully that opens up and does not give me too much stress. But it's faux belting, not in like it's fake and it's phony and it's bad for your voice. Actually, wait, no, I did not. That's the wrong document. My bad. Wait, I could have swore this is the Popeil thing, isn't it? Oh God, no, I put in the wrong link. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. Actually, no. Oh wait. What the hell? I could have swore I put that up first. Is it? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, let's see if it finds it. Because I don't have time. Okay. Faux belt is always an option for singers and Where's the first time I mentioned this faux belt? Okay, so it's important to note that voice pedagogues trying to teach healthy belting with the CT dominant head voice, vocal fold source, as opposed to the TA dominant chest voice, vocal fold source, may not be preparing their students for the real world of CCM singing. So CCM, I think, what is it again? Like contemporary commercial music? I don't know. That's something like old voice teachers use to refer to like anything that's not opera, bah humbug. So, what was I gonna say? So I think when you belt with that sort of like, head sound that's trying to be belt, like it could be powerful, but it's a texture that is sort of old world, and it doesn't make you sound as current in a pop context as if you bring that yelling up there. Like it doesn't work, as I said, like in the gospel context, it doesn't work in a lot of the world of the musical theater context. Like it can work for like a note that is written to be that way, but that won't usually be considered the climax. If there's a real belt in that song, if there is a TA dominant belt in that song, the faux belt is not going to be the climax. Like eventually, if I go like, if the climax of the song, let me think of something like I'm just making up a melody right now. So I'm gonna be like, well, this is the first climax, and then this is the second climax. Like the second one blows the first one out of the water. Like nobody remembers that as the climax. I think like TA belt, just in terms of intensity, not even in terms of like how loud it is, but just in terms of intensity and the squillo, the extra like stuff that you get because you have more vocal cords swimming around, or more vocal cord mass swimming around. You get I asked because you mentioned, okay, hello, MJ Brent. So I'm just seeing this now. Okay, so break is a hallmark of going to. Okay, so I don't think that the break defines head voice in and of itself, but I think that it is a symptom of what the head register actually is. I think I don't even like using the term head register. I don't even like it, but I use it because that's what most people refer to. I refer to talking about M2, laryngeal mechanism, M2, because basically what it is, it's a sort of shape that your vocal cords take. And when you switch between those shapes, let me get back on camera so I can use my hands. Second. I'm so bad and old. Where is it? Live events. No, okay, wait. I got this. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to camera. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna demonstrate with my hands. So chest voice, I usually demonstrate by going sort of like this. So my hands all the way to the rest, like this vocal cord 1, vocal cord 2, high, they sort of vibrate like this. And this is how much of the vocal cord meat is being used in my analogy of chest voice for now. So like when you switch into head, I think you use less vocal cord mass, and it sort of like pulls apart like that, like, and then now it's just this vibrating. So what happens when you switch into head from chest is that when the way they like pull in on each other, so you have only the fingers vibrating as opposed to like the whole hand, that pulling apart lets like a burst of air come through the glottis, like the space just gets wider. So that burst of air comes through the glottis, and I think that is the passaggio break that you hear. That's the audible jump that you get in people's voices. That's that sort of like amplitude peak that you get if you look at what's a majig of people like sliding through their range. That can be suppressed. Like I'm gonna start in obvious chest voice and end in obvious head voice. So like I did it without breaking. So the absence of a break doesn't mean, okay, I didn't switch, but the only way to get that break sound is, in my opinion, to change registers. There's a good video on it. Follow me on the different social media, and I'll post, like reach out to me on one of these, and I'll send you a video of somebody doing a stroboscopy on their larynx where they show that break happening in real time. Okay, let me switch back to screen share mode because nobody wants to see all this ugliness. Okay, hopefully that answered your thing. Let me see if that did. I don't know, nobody's saying anything no more. So back to the question. Okay, so I think that true belt is M1. M2 can do some of the imitation, whatever, but if you really want the job done right, you gotta drag up, and it's gonna feel yelling, it's gonna feel uncomfortable at first. But that's I think what I think it is. So M1 belting can be lightened. So as we talked about before, you can lighten the M1 of speaking. So I'm still in chest register, but now I'm just lighter. So I can do that during speaking, but eventually we'll talk about doing that during actual belt. I don't think M1 belting is inherently harmful. It is very tiring and draining, but I don't think it is inherently harmful. And I really have to plug my homegirl, Lisa Popeil, on this. So click this link and there'll definitely be some stuff talking about the ways in which you can go about doing it. But I'm gonna find something real quick that had a good summary. Did I delete it? No, I did not. Yes. Okay, so let me read over this thing. And if you want like a screen cap of this, let me know. Okay, so the epigastric region, this is like a breathing muscle. Consistent activation is just like this. Okay, so although constant activation of this gesture would likely produce excessive subglottic pressure and forceful collision of the vocal cords, ignore that part because they're not talking about doing this like epigastric movement just doing belt. They're talking about like if you just did it all the time, like if you talked all the time, like really tense, like you're gonna belt all the time, but just talking about doing this during belt. So when you do that kind of anchoring during belt with, oh my God, if Utho sees this, it helps take some of the work off of the thyroarytenoids, and it can keep the vocal cords from sort of gliding into each other with all the work that they're doing in that high pressure. There's a little bit like more you need to understand what this physically actually looks like, but just giving you a sort of rough analogy of how this works is that there's muscles that can take away the strain of what it takes to yell. When we just like normal raw yell, we can pull that back and we can refine it and still make the same sounds without doing as much work, quote unquote, in the throat. You can do it with like the epigastric muscle, which is an accessory breathing muscle in your abdominal region, at least I think. Yeah, so that can help with safe yelling. I would highlight, but all I got is a little grab thing. Grab. Oh no! Okay, wait. Yes, okay, found it. So let me know if y'all want that source as well. So the actual belt technique, the video on me. Okay, so this isn't the switch from the antagonistic muscle that counts for the break. Okay, yeah. So MJ, yeah, it is sort of like the switch between the muscles that accounts for the break, but the muscles themselves aren't making the noise. It's the release of air that happens because of the way they reshape the glottal configuration. So that reshaping of how your vocal cords are interacting lets that pop of air through. My God, I'm really gonna take up this whole hour. So range stuff. So if you go back into the good ass question, she talks about getting up to like G5, A5. So there's definitely like some things that can happen during puberty for AMABs that makes those notes a little bit harder. Like you get that increased vocal cord weight, like your vocal cords start to get heavier, and that is what gives me, even though I'm such a sissy, that's the way that people can usually tell that I'm AMAB, is that excuse me, is that I burp all the time, and that my voice has the weight to it. Like as soon as I take that weight away, there really isn't much else that makes my voice that masculine if I take all that weight away. So what was I gonna say? Well, yeah. So that weight comes from puberty. In addition to making your voice sound heavier, I think it also makes it harder to do some of these like lesser vocal meat configurations. Let me do. God, I can't. I'm so bad at this. Oh my God. Okay. Wait, oh God, y'all were watching me the whole time. Oh no, I told it to screen share. Oh well, okay, so it's still on my horrible ugly face. So I can show y'all. So you have like if you have more vocal cord meat, it's harder to sort of like wrangle it around than like pretend that the part that I'm scrunching up, pretend that doesn't exist. So if I shrink the meat of my vocal cords, like it's easy to get that space in between them. And when you get to those higher notes, just know that that's something like, especially when you get above A5, that's something that you really need to be able to accommodate is pulling off of it. I think that's why so many people get blocked at around A5s. They think that they need to go harder in order to get up there, but you actually need to go smaller. Like when you listen, as my voice like goes up past A5, it's going to kind of shrink. So I'm going to start at A4, go to A5, then keep going up, and hopefully you should hear like my voice is kind of shrunken by that point. So pretty much, like so as I go past that, that loses that weight. And even if I like kind of do it loud and aggressive, that is still like a thin sound that I'm just doing really aggressively and strainedly and loud. So you lose weight when you go up there. God, I wish I could lose some actual weight when I went up there. Okay. So yeah, so that's probably part of what happens. But obviously, like I have an AMAP voice and I'm older than you. I'm like almost twice as old as you. But if I can access that, there's no reason that you can't work around that the way I did and find that. Because I wasn't good at A5 plus notes. I wasn't even able to find my whistle register to like way after puberty started for me. But even though I did like the whole like boy soprano thing, I wasn't as good as I am now. And so it's definitely a lot about like the muscle. Wait, am I still letting y'all see my ugly face? Yeah, y'all still see my ugliness. So it's more important like that you know how to control things up here than like what is happening down here with whatever your body wants to do with hormones or whatever. So okay, let me keep working through this. Belting, back to that. So first of all, once you get to G5, A5, it might be interesting for you to know that G5 and A5 can definitely, like once you get past that block, that can still be emulated, and M1, that can still be something that you do with a sort of belty sound, and that does default to sort of like a gospel-y femme sound when you get up there. For your sake of knowing. So I'm gonna go from G4, G5 continuous. No, let me go discontinuous. Let me build up to this special surprise of a G5 M1 coming out my throat. Then we go discontinuous, G5 to G4 to G5, and then I'll do like a little top off on C6. Is it still showing my ugly face? Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm gonna go G4 to G5, discontinuous, and then continuous G5 to C6. Because I'm going to switch into head. I'm going to do both G5 and C6 in head. So you're going to hear no break here, but you're going to hear a break here. So there's going to be a break and then no break there. So continuous at the top, but not continuous at the bottom because I'm switching from M1 to M2. I mean, I can mask that change. I don't particularly like masking it. I think it's kind of pointless. But if like stylistically, if you do an opera or something like this, definitely some benefits to masking it. But now I'm gonna do both M1 for G4 to G5. I'm gonna do both M1 and then I'm gonna do C6. I'm gonna outbelt all your faves. So you're gonna hear a break as I go from G5 to C6, but not between G4 and G5. So. Oh crap! I did the whole thing in M1. My bad. Do you hear that break? Like it's very slight. But for me, I'm hearing the break. So. That time I didn't really get it. As you get up higher, it's a little bit harder to do step break because there's not as much like room to go anywhere in head voice, like because that break is really like a decompression. So there's that C6 is pretty high and difficult even in head voice. That's soprano. I see. I'll have you know. But like when you're switching with that higher level of like pressure to something that is still a pretty high level of pressure, there's not as much of a differential. So rather than try and do it a bunch of times now, I'll probably just like put up a recording and me getting a good break between my G5 and C6. Okay, so back to the document. Let me see what else I was supposed to talk about. Okay, so I think breathiness fails as an essential MTF strategy because it sort of precludes your ability to do that. You can't really be breathy and belt at the same time. It doesn't quite work. That I don't think I have enough time to demonstrate right now, but just take my word for it. It's like it's hard to shout and be breathy at the same time. It's like if you start talking breathy right now, get as breathy as possible. I guarantee if you track your amplitude on something, like let me do a little amplitude tracking of my voice. I'm gonna do some simultaneous pitch and amplitude tracking. Okay. So this thing right here is my amplitude, and as you can tell, I'm loud as hell. What? Are you serious? Is it that sensitive? Is that sensitive? Really? Okay, this thing is too sensitive. Let me see if I can change. Can I change the settings? Oh, no. That's how I'm gonna do it. Okay, keep going up. Keep going up. You know I'm loud. Loud, got you loud. Sorry, that was a Baltimore drugs joke. Okay, so am I still no? Holy hell! Excuse me while I fidget with this. Let me see if y'all have any questions while I fidget with this. So I'm getting towards the end of it. Pick a fourth octave with the video on you. This isn't a general all-purpose belting video. This is mainly about belting for trans people, but there are some like incidental things where I'm gonna talk about belting in general. Jesus, God. Okay, no, that's not happening. Okay, it's not happening. The tuna does not like me. Okay, so if you basically the point is like if you take the voice that you're speaking with right now and you get quieter with it, it's gonna get breathier with it, it's gonna get quieter. Or even when people try to get quieter, they often get breathy. So something that is like as loud and constricted is belting. It just does not allow breathiness. So people that try to achieve like trans voice by like, I would be really breathy, that's gonna make me more feminine. And it helps a little bit, but it's not as flexible of a strategy. And I don't think breathiness itself is even necessarily endemic to femininity. Like one of my favorite voices to do is the bro voice. It's kind of like the damn Daniel guy, like, damn Daniel, do you hear the kind of breathiness? Damn Daniel, like that breathiness doesn't, I don't think, contribute any femininity. And I can also do like a very husky, like low breathy voice, like I'm kind of a hoarse old man type of sound. And that breathiness, I don't think contributes any femininity to those sounds. If anything, it contributes masculinity, in my opinion. So we talked about how they sort of ignore a lot of standard pedagogies, ignore just like you can do all these strategies inside your chest voice. Like you don't need to speak high to be a girl. Girls aren't always high. There's girls that can hit some like hella dope bass notes. But you have to use these strategies that you learn to sort of like work with your chest voice and massage it into a breast voice. I'm sorry, I hope that's not offensive, but that is just so cute. I'm gonna make that trend. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind is that while there's also like stuff for feminine M1 practice, there is some things with M2 praxis, and I think because most people don't spend a significant time like talking, and it looks like people don't generally talk like this. And there's another thing that makes people trying to talk in head voice sort of clockable is like, what are you doing? I think what contributes to that is like almost nobody talks in head voice when it comes to singing and just like behaviors that are manipulated by the industry. I don't think it's like corresponds to anything that is true for AFABs or AMABs inherently at all. But I think when women in the industry tend to go into head voice, they are using as sort of like a light garnish. It's like, oh, here's this little cute thing I can do right quick. And like if you listen to Mariah Carey live for high notes, they'll be like, oh, too much as voice, and I'm gonna do head note. Woo! Like that is gonna be like a lot airier and dolled up and pretty than what's I gonna say? Then my brain stopped. It's gonna be a lot more adult and pretty than like when these guys go for head voice notes. I think when guys go for head voice notes, like I work all day and all night on trying to get my voice to go this high. You're gonna recognize this today. Like if you think of who's this guy with the head, like Adam Levine, Maroon 5. Like if you listen to the climaxes, a lot of his songs, he's gonna like climax into a pretty like severe head voice, like a like on the animals, like just like animals. He has that like at the end, like that wolf called like or whatever. I can't remember what the actual note is, but like he's gonna let you know that he means business with this head voice. But I think when women use head voice, it's just like an attractive little side feature because female climaxes tend to be in belts. They tend to be like, not only are you doing that note high, you are yelling that note pretty much, like refined yell. So not as dangerous, like just regular speech yelling, but that is what makes that this sort of centerpiece. Okay, so how do we achieve this sound now? All this like blathering on I've gone in terms of like, how do we achieve a high feminine M1? So I think open quotient strategy, like using still this kind of voice, that works, I think, with lower belts. When I go to do a belt and try to keep this like continuous lightness, and instead of sort of reaching for all my vocal cord meat, wow, I just reach for like more maybe air pressure from my diaphragm or whatever. I get that louder sound, but I don't distort back into masculinity. So I'm about like as opposed to like as opposed to like hopefully you guys can hear the difference. It's kind of mind fucky. I've already cursed enough times. My soul is already sold to the devil. So it's already kind of like difficult to map things up there. So hopefully I'm doing it clearly. Let me see if somebody's leaving any comments of whether or not I'm actually doing it clearly. Okay, no, nobody loves me no more. Maybe it just froze. I don't know. I hope it froze. I hope people still love me. But if you're leaving me comments, I can't see them. So that's, I think, the first strategy that works. Other strategies I think are some of the same like MTF strategies that if you look up Ziana at transvoice.com, I think is the name of her website. She has a lot of cool tips and tricks that you can do for some like vowel modifications, for some textual modifications. I think most of those can be applied during belt as well. But because belting is so intense and the vocal cords themselves are making so much noise, the other tonal features that you contribute to your voice just don't make as much difference, especially as you get higher and higher up. Like everybody pretty much sounds the same as they get like higher and higher up. Like everybody pretty much sounds the same in Whistle, but everybody pretty much sounds the same as Joe Boss. Like that whistle note like probably sounds barely differentiable from Mariah Carey, and like this Joe Boss note, like that probably sounds like barely differentiable from anybody else doing Joe Boss. So the extremes of the range tend to converge. So while I think those feminine strategies are helpful, and I probably should have put a note for them, as you get higher and higher up, you have to sort of do some other things to accommodate, because it's going to be more about what the vocal cord meat is doing rather than like these little tricks that you're adding, like vowels, whatever. That even vowels start to all sound the same. Just like if I do like an A-E-I-O-U, like I'm gonna just say a bunch of different vowels on a lower belt, and then a mid belt, and then a high belt, and you'll see as you go up, they start to converge. So it doesn't matter if you're doing like vowel tricks to sound more feminine. So let me do a fourth octave bill. So and this is also to debunk the whole notion that there's like some kind of ideal belting vowel that you can only belt on a nasal schwa from France. So you can belt on any vowel, and you can definitely differentiate them on that lower thing. So now let's do a D sharp 5. Like you see my mouth moving to create the different vowels, hopefully. But it's not creating as much of a difference. And then what was I gonna do? For symmetry. Ooh, yeah. Look at me. I'm gonna do G sharp 5. So that was kind of bad, but I'm tired and dry. But the sound really starts to converge together. So something that I think you have to lean on when you're not strong is to attenuate the belt. So the ways of attenuating the belt or weakening it or dampening it is you can sort of cover the belt, you can sort of like swallow it back. And that involves like covering with what's called the epiglottis, like this long tube like thing in your throat. So you can sort of go, instead of going like a very open, big, like a you can sort of go like and I'm sort of like I'm squishing it back. And you can do like a sort of also less vocal cord weight, like you use less of your vocal cords, like you're not letting all that meat hang out. The same way, like when I go in head voice, when I go to chest voice, on the same note, the chest voice sounds denser because there's more vocal cord activity happening. There's more of the vocal cords actually moving. Like remember what I said before about like, this is your chest voice, this is your head voice. So the same thing can apply to sort of zones of belt where I slip the belt a little bit more towards a lower, oh no. Thank you. I love you too, MJ. Wait. Okay. Look at you actually being here to offer conspiracy theory analysis. Okay, so what was I gonna say? Yeah, the breathing, the gas thing. Yeah, definitely that's probably like epigastric stuff. So epigastric muscle coordination. I'm not like giving you the tools on how to do it through here because I can't talk about everything. I can't just give you everything. Y'all have to pay me money. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, well, no, I'm not. But you also have the strategy as I was talking about before, reducing the weight of the vocal cords that you use in the belt. So you have like the sort of the covering where it's damper and it feels like it's further away. So like the more in your face, but like the and then like the more further was where it feels like swallowed and pulled back. You can also reduce the amount of vocal cord weight you're doing in there. And that I would really need stroboscopy to confirm what exactly that might sound like. It's harder to really get in there, but the strategy I think you can use is to drag down from once you get those high belts, like once you start getting like above A4, you can drag from one of those belts down to one of your original belts. And like while I might be using all my chest and all my breast to belt a G4, like when I do it off the cuff, like if I slide down from above, I might not use as much meat because I can't use all that meat up here. So yeah, it's like it's a little bit less dense and not like necessarily pulled back. So I think those two dimensions. Versus if I drag from below, like or crab. I forgot what note. Okay, just pretend you understood the difference between those G4s. If y'all really want me to, somebody say in the comments. I don't know. That's the KH surprise gasp. Is that a KH surprise gasp? I don't even know. But yeah, if y'all want more of these tips, like the document where she talks about some of these things is linked. Uthro will also get you them free PDFs. So hit his ass up. In fact, I probably like copy one of the PDFs from a link that Uthro gave me. Okay, so yeah, so like using less vocal cord weight. So I can go from belting like belting and I'm a guy. Like that's very like masculine to like, I'm belting and I'm not a guy. I'm not using as much weight. So like that can eventually be a thing that you incorporate as a trans female singer. So transition and belting. So how the future, because you look at the end, she starts talking about like, she's going to medically transition. So medical transition obviously takes various different forms. So in her case, she's doing puberty blockers. So she won't hopefully experience as much of that vocal cord growth. I don't know like exactly, because there needs to be more studies on this, like what kind of like repercussions it might have in terms of if your laryngeal space doesn't grow. I don't know that many people have done puberty blockers. I know like people who do estrogen after puberty, but I don't know many people who have done the puberty blockers. So I don't know what that does with like the laryngeal volume, but I know with like MT, I can do English, with FTM. With FTM trans voices, they tend to be more like confined in terms of laryngeal volume. Like they're very dense because the vocal cords have enlarged, but the laryngeal space hasn't necessarily enlarged. So the vocal folds have to sort of dance around in this smaller space because the vocal cords are like larger now. So that you can get that kind of thing with some trans men who, especially if they haven't done like sort of work on behavioral methods you can use to work around that. So I don't know if anything like that happens with puberty blockers. I should look into that. I should have looked into that before this video, but I'm unprofessional. So yeah, in terms of like estrogen, so yeah, you have the blockers, which I should have put the bullet point about the blockers, but you have estrogen, and I am not entirely sure about like the scope, but it seems like there are suggested reports that estrogen can actually age your voice. It doesn't masculinize it necessarily, but it ages your voice. And I think in the like overall spectral thing, aging things tend to take you more towards male. So like that's why you have like grown women that play boys, because as their voice ages, it takes them more and more to the sound of a boy. And like little girls can't necessarily play boys with their voices as quite as well as like mature women. So I don't even know where I was going with that. So estrogen tends to like age and mature your voice, and I think one of the ways it does that is it makes your vocal cords a little bit more like solid and weighty. So if anything, I think estrogen might present some challenges. I mean, not, again, I don't think it's anything that can't be overcome. But again, we need more data. I don't know of any trans female belters. I don't know of any trans male belters. I'm sure I know a trans male belter, but not like a high one. I don't think I've heard a high one. Well, there's Jake Cyrus, formerly Sharice Pempenko. Jake Cyrus. I don't know about him. Does he take T though? I don't know. But this is more MTF than FTM. Let me know if y'all want me to do an FTM thing on some kind of singing topic, and I would be more than glad to. In fact, there's a really cool FTM voice teacher that I talk with sometimes on Facebook, and I'll see if he'd be interested in like collabing or something. I don't know, or just doing it his damn self. He doesn't need myself, my ass. Okay, so surgery. So in terms of the surgery, if you're going to get vocal cord reduction surgery as part of your transition, that can help with lightening and like the open coach and anything, but I'm 100% an advocate for behavioral interventions. Like all these people out there that can do these good impressions of girl voices without even being trans, like they don't even like commit their life to it, then I don't see why a trans woman shouldn't be able to do that if that's what she wants. Again, like, well, I've never said this the first time, but as I always try to say, like you don't need to do this to be a real woman. Like it's up to you. You're a real woman because you're a woman. Like you don't need this. But if this affirms you, like by all means. But that's like the subtext. But some people are gonna be like, well, what if I don't want to do this? I clicked on this video and I'm watching the whole thing, but what if I don't want to do it? I'm like, this is for people that want to do it, but I'm not saying, and nobody's saying that you have to do it. So disclaimer. So what was I gonna say? the glottal aperture, I think, messes you up in a variety of ways, and that's gonna like make you a little bit more breathy unintentionally. You just have this like habitual baseline level of breathiness. It's gonna be hard to get rid of, if it's even possible to get rid of it without surgical intervention. And as we were mentioning before, you can't really mix breathiness and belt. It's like me and waking up before 6 a.m. It's just not gonna happen. So what I have heard though is like you have the Yeson clinic in Korea versus what they do in the States, which is some butcher shop of horror shit. I swear it's bad. I don't know. Like if there's any trans women who want to comment on this video, or people that know about the surgery just in general that want to say like, okay, well this clinic in the US does a decent job. But what I've seen it always like it's shaving away of the vocal cords in such a way that it's like it's invasive because they go directly like here as opposed to like up and down like they do in the like they go down your throat and operate from the inside at the Yeson clinic. But with the American one, they open that shit up, so that has a whole bunch of potential repercussions. And there's the whole like just how much tissue they extract when they do it. They shave it down, I think is pretty much the process. They suture it back up, but they shave down and that tissue doesn't grow back. So yeah. So what that leaves you with is like less vocal cord mass, which I guess makes you able to belt with that like impression of thinner vocal cords, because your vocal cords actually are thinner. But I just think it really destabilizes your glottis such that like when you're trying to belt, I'm still on camera mode, I think. I still am. When you are belting and you have this like glottal aperture and you have all this air coming up and it's high pressure air because belt is high pressure, that pressure tends to like push out and your vocal cords burst apart and it's gonna be like pushing into head voice. So when you must see that as like these people, these poor snowflakes that try to think that like mix in head voice is some like new register between chest and head. These poor in the arms of the angels. These poor people that really think that they do this really light chest voice sometimes. It just keeps popping back and forth. So they try to get loud with it when they're barely like giving enough glottal constriction to stabilize chest voice. It's just this sort of like breathy, high open quotient, very unstable thing that pops back and forth. So it sounds sort of like, oh, this is my mix register. And that ends up being what comes out because they're trying to like dance this line and there is nothing really there at that line. There is just confusion and pain at that line. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to try to toe that line with a normal voice, but with the surgical procedure that they do in America for trans voice, like that puts you at that line. So I'm not muted. I'm not. Okay. So I don't think that being at that sort of like fragile state in order to achieve femininity is good for belting. Like if you're never gonna sing, you're never gonna be interested in belting or being really loud, then I guess go for it if you really just cannot work with behavioral therapy to change your voice. But I honestly think like if it's a will, it's a way, and you can really find it behaviorally and it still gives you all those same options because AFABs can do that shit. So if you want to like be a like someone that is like gives the impressions of being an AFAB, like why don't you want the full range necessarily of what AFABs can do? So I'm against anything that like permanently alters the shape of your glottis. So yeah, I think that is it. Let me see if there's any more questions on this video. Can be done. Someone with a really great range. Brianna Sinclair. Oh, I keep hearing about her name. Is she like a voice professional, or is she a singer, or what is she? Because I think someone brought her up as like a trans speech language pathologist. So I don't know if she sings, but I really would love examples of like trans women out here like doing this shit. And because right now it's theoretical, and that's not because like I want to exclude trans voices If anything, like please come and if you're on my social media, please check out Ziana. I should have linked her stuff. Why not? I think I was linking her stuff all over Reddit and everything before, so I didn't want to tag her and everything, get on her nerves. But if you're interested in hearing more about like the basic just general MTF toolkit, Ziana is just amazing. Oh, a singer. Oh, a trans operatic soprano. Yes, there is definitely interesting stuff because it's not very belting oriented. I didn't cover it here, but there's definitely some interesting things to consider. Let me excuse me, oh Lord. Let me link y'all to that. I think I'm done with this. There's some stuff that she said about her nasopharynx and everything, and that. Okay, I'm gonna play her in a second. This last thing that she said, she brings up something about nasopharyngeal stuff. And that I'm going to talk more about in my resonance podcast. I'm going to leave that for there, but I don't think nasopharyngeal resonance or the sensation of that is necessarily inherent or endemic or like mandatory for any of the techniques that we're talking about. But what you might be experiencing is like with twang. Twang happens because of something called the aryepiglottic sphincter. It's this band of muscle and cartilage above your vocal cords, and it squeezes together. It makes this like tight hole that you're. That's what she said, that your voice has to go through in order to get up, and it sort of gets like pressurized, almost like a laser, and that laser shoots up into your nasopharynx. So I think people tend to feel it there, but the actual making of twang does not involve your nasopharynx. I'm gonna like hopefully further shoot that to death on the resonance thing. Definitely, you're 14. It's not your fault for thinking that. You are incredible. You is smart. You is kind. You is the best. You's #1 music. DJ Khaled. So that's a very common misconception. So I'll make sure to shoot that to shit in my podcast that I'm about to do in like an hour. Blah blah. Oh my God. Look at her sing. Wait. Is she black? I'm gonna lose it if she's black. Oh my God. Wait. Let me Google that ass. Actually, no. Let me use one of the tabs. Let me not generate 1,000. Why do I have a halo? I think I have like a. Okay, let me listen to her while I do that. Let me not generate a new tab and like have all this thing crash because it's already going kind of slow. Brianna Sinclair. I'm trying to tell. Oh shit! I think she black with this. She good. I like her. She's not a good case study for belting, obviously, because opera don't really belt. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to talk about at some point. But yeah, there definitely is something to the whole concept. What am I doing? Oh, I thought I was screen sharing. I'm probably not even screen sharing. Am I screen sharing? No, I'm not. Okay, so let me screen share so I can show y'all one last thing, and then I'm probably gonna head out. I gotta prep for this broadcast. What was I gonna do again? Oh yeah. Opera. Trans voice, turn S, opera trans voice. Okay. Oh, you know what? It's inside the group. Why not just link that? Trans opera. Oh, that's the guy I'm going to be doing the podcast with. And I will link it. Where y'all at? Okay. Oh, they're not binary. Oh, my bad. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. No, Alexa Gray is great. Okay, let me get on them. Okay, but yeah, I like Brianna. I think there's definitely like challenges with being trans in opera that every time I bring it up, every other person's like thinks I mean social challenges. I mean, of course there are social challenges to being opera, but opera as a trans person, but just even in general, I think there's a lot of challenges vocally to doing feminizing vocal techniques while singing the technique that is suggested for opera. So I think the only way to really overcome it is to sing it in a female range, because the voices are made so uniform. That's just like what makes men in opera tends to be just singing lower, or tends to make women in opera is singing higher. Well, again, I'm not trying to be gender essentialist. I mean, like what makes people interpreted as those things, like what conveyed. It's that thing. Is there like a timestamp in this video where we're about to get real? Is that them singing? Ooh, I like them, but is this them? I think it's them. This is like a long video, and it's like a lot of people on the stage. I think this is them. It's probably just backup dancers. Yeah, that clocks as woman to me. Again, not advocating the process of like clocking as like the measuring stick of your life. Okay, thank you, MJ. Wow, I'm gonna keep that. In fact, let me share this in my. So the take, that was definitely M2, but it was like this nice, like rounded up sort of to chesty sound. M2 that wasn't overdone to the point of where it's like I'm doing my like man glory note kind of thing. So that I think is like gets back to, if you remember, if you were here for the talk on like how the industry sort of pushed it, I feel like pushes women to be like, okay, your M2 is like this light pretty thing, and then for the climax you're gonna M1. So that was sort of like an M2E. I mean, M2 kind of like M1 emulation, but I think it was so tasteful that for me it doesn't like clock. Around the corner, back in the car, would you give it to me endlessly? Would you take care of me? Yes, that's what I like to do. Care of me, like to actually be commanding while femme. I don't think there's a whole hashtag like femme ain't frail. But I should have used that to advertise this. I could have gotten them good clicks. But there's a whole like movement on that, and I think that's definitely true with nothing, that you can be effeminate but still aggressive at the same time. And I think what's her name is Gray, Alexa Gray. I think they are a great demonstrator of that. So let me post them in the group. Y'all have any questions? I guess I'm gonna open up the general questions for a little bit, and then I'm gonna call it a day because I have all of like 2 people watching me. I'm so saying hello. But I really appreciate y'all keeping me company. That makes me feel like a lot less delusional. Let me click over 1 second after I paste this. Dope. slash meaty. She's not necessarily, they're not necessarily aggressive. They just like, it's assertive. Okay, well, I was singing after transition. Oh yeah, of course. I really appreciate the community reaching out to me. Like I've just had so many trans just people that want to change their speaking voice, and like singers really helped me along so much. In fact, my trans friend helped me set up this video chat. I'd be lost if it wasn't for Lena. So no, definitely. Like I'm so glad to give Jinx Monsoon. She's the witch too. I don't know. Okay, I will try to remember that. Jinx Monsoon. Let me type that at the bottom. Liliana, since this is your like smart ass question. I mean that like not in a smart ass like smart Alec. I mean like it is smart as hell. What's her name? Alexa. I'm so bad with names. Alexa Gray with the little. I don't even know what that letter is called. I'm a linguist. So Liliana, do you have any like last questions before I shut this down? Is Jinx Monsoon, is that a drag queen? I'm pretty sure, because I've heard that name somewhere. Got dress everything. Okay, I'll give you a second. I got like 10 more minutes. Somebody sent me a message. Ooh. I do the best runs when I'm like reacting to stuff. Somebody with 40,000 Twitter followers said they would not follow me, but retweet my stuff on Instagram. Particular exercise to facilitate that highest M1 belt. So I'm a great proponent, and this is what Michael wanted me to talk about the whole time. But I want to make sure I got all the trans stuff out the way before I just talked about general belting praxis, because it really is like a lot for me to change the quality of my belting. Let me take it back off to so y'all can see the glory of my face. Is it okay? Back to me. Okay, awesome. So facilitating high belting in general. So definitely talk about it more. It helps to know where you're starting from, where your belt where your M1 dragging leaves off. So I'm gonna just go through basically the neighborhoods of belt. So okay. Oh, nice. Thank you. Okay. Yes, I'm in the trans voice. Oh, that's probably how MJ found me. But anyways, so an F4. So F4 is part of what I call the modal extension of belting. I'm gonna go through the neighborhoods of belt real quick, and I'm gonna talk about sort of what you need to find the key to the next neighborhood as you go up, because you should go in order with everything. I won't talk about why now, but just in general, it's good to go everything in order, because I neglected my full modal belting. So F is what I call a full modal belt. It's the kind of belt that people use when they're just shouting at people across the street, like, hey, hey! So that's it. Oh crap, that's high, but now I'm high, crap. So, hey, hey! Like that's probably more what like normal people belt at. I've like belted an F5 in conversation by accident before. So, that extension from like D sharp 4 up to G sharp 4. You can belt that just by sort of like using your regular speaking voice. So the same techniques that you use in general with trans feminizing your voice, except for like breathiness or whatever, should work in that range, and it shouldn't feel too different trying to do them over there. But then once you get to A4 and up, that is what I call the tenor extension of belting. So that goes from A4 to D sharp 5. So if you look at a lot of like singing talk communities, most people's belting ranges will stop at around an A4 if they've been doing belting for any significant period of time. They get that stop at A4, because going from like this regular, I'm just like yelling the way I would talk. It's kind of low effort. I start to condense and get this sort of high energy and pressure as I go up. So I'm really trying to dramatize it so you can hear the difference. Where it gets that like intensity that you don't necessarily hear in speech belting, but it like modal yelling, but it sounds reminiscent of it. So let me talk about the key while I'm already here. So to get from speech belting to modal belting, I think you have to really get comfortable with modal belting, that it's okay to do it. It's okay to yell. Like, check in with yourself and make sure you're not doing it in a way that hurts or feels wrong, but it's going to be demanding. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be in your face. So first, really get used to that, and that should take you the rest of the way through modal up to that like A4 block. So once you get comfortable yelling, there's a good video on it that I'm going to send to you of just like speech level belt yelling. Once you get good with that, and even maybe I would try applying like feminizing techniques to it. So like do it with the higher open quotient and everything, and I'll talk about like how you can do those things afterwards. But Ziana is also a great teacher. She's trans herself, and like she lives this. So what was that? So once you get up there, and you're at the tenor extension of belting. So the way I find it's easy to get up there is like to almost get a little bit constipated, do as if you're like a little bit constipated. So I'll kind of squeeze it in. I think like that squeezing can sort of dampen the other vocal cord motion. Like it can dampen some of it, and you can bring up this like lesser bit of your vocal cords for a little bit, and that can really help you find it. Just going like being constipated about it at first can really help you find that. So that was like that constipation. Then you're just doing grinds, just range, like build through that range, and then you'll come to eventually that stop at D sharp 5, and it's uncanny. Like if you look at Adele's range video, if you look at who else, like Christina Aguilera, if you look at Whitney Houston, all these women with like that are known for belting and being powerful, but having like heavy, powerful voices, their belt range is like either stop or like really fall off at about D sharp 5. And for most guys that are good at belting, it stops at around like D5, D sharp 5 as well. Like if you listen to Pavarotti, like his voice really switches after that D5. So that is a new extension that you get into there, where I think it's like that's the dividing line. That's one of the most significant hurdles to get over. But yeah, I'll talk more about that in depth a little bit later. But basically, the way you cross over through that, I find is anchoring with one of the higher like tenor belts, anchoring with that, and sort of trying to jump over that D sharp 5 block, just like jumping up over it without letting your voice break. So, or let me do like a high one so y'all think I'm awesome. Let me go from B natural 4 to F sharp 5. So I go up there without it breaking. But if it breaks, you have to restart because you flipped into head. So what was I gonna say? I can like do a like heavy, intense like head voice, but if it's still head voice, it's gonna break. So if you want to know that if you're belting up there for sure, try to drag it up continuously. That's all be stuff that comes in time. And then what's the last thing? Double high belting, what I call what you get after G sharp 5. It's just I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I don't got the energy. But in I guess what I will say now is that it is easier to me, I think, than it's probably the second easiest range of belting, even though it's like the highest range. Like once you get up to these like gospel high squeal whale belts, like whale mating call belts, like B5. So once I get up there, like that is a lot easier for me than doing G5 because it starts to resemble head more and more as you get up there. So they're doing like F sharp 5 again. Look. That is harder for me to do than so I guess just I'll explain getting across that break right now because it's pretty much a pretty rare thing. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell, how you sort of like ascend through these different neighborhoods and breaks of belt. One thing to keep in mind though, this is super important, I should have mentioned at the beginning, is always build your head before you build your belt. So it's sort of like a path laying. You have to lay that path in head voice before you start going to belt, because if you learn that in belt before you learn it in head voice, you start to like build these bad habits that will keep your head voice range down. And I think if you lead with that head voice, you can sort of like get used to this and get comfortable in this, and it can open up more possibilities. And even if you never learn how to belt on that note, you have so many more options if you can like proficiently head voice a note than if all you got is belt. I think that's like everything. Yeah. So I guess the first trick is to just get used to yelling, be okay with yelling to get through the rest of modal belting. And then constipation to get you past the A4 block, the block into tenor belting, and then to get to the block into what I call the money note range, the E5 to G sharp 5 range. You're gonna want to anchor that with the tenor belts. So like switch up from the tenor belt and try not to. I'm just giving away all my secrets. Somebody better pay me. But I was so impressed with how intelligent Liliana is that I couldn't help. I'm just putting all myself out there. It also doesn't help that I'm on, I don't know how many Benadryl. Actually, I forgot I took some before, so I took some again. So I'd be like, oh, I'm still itchy. I need to take some. And I took like at least more than twice of what I was supposed to take. So hopefully nobody sees this and calls the narcs because I popped a Benny and now I'm sweating. Yeah. Oh my God, thank you, MJ. Oh, people taking me seriously. That's so deep. Yes, master the full middle belt. Yeah. Practice upper belting extension. So I'm definitely I'll leave y'all some stuff. How to figure out how to slide for me. Yeah, you really gotta build up and feel comfortable with that B4. I only did a B4 because I was trying to show off. Like you're gonna start from A4 to E5 as opposed to B4 to F sharp 5. You want to get just over that hill, but before you even start doing that, you want to be able to at least yeah, I did the pop test in the video. I played in the Instagram video. I played sorry, these graphics are just too much. I played the F5, F sharp 5 at the same time I was singing it, so it masked the pop a little bit, but that can definitely pop. And this is a song where Beyonce pops one, but I can't remember where it is. So hopefully you hear that switch. So it's the same note too. It's like it's still in F5. So all I'm switching is the coordination, and that gives the pop. But don't believe this hype where they try to tell you, oh no, you just have to like pray and wish and turn your head voice into. It's like I promise you. I tried this for years. I tried for years to turn M2 into emulating M1 belting. I could never get there. So and I think I do have like the best I was gonna say something cute, but now it just sounds arrogant. I was gonna say, like, I do have one, like, I do have a very long tenure of hitting head voice and like just living in that. So I think like if someone were to figure out how to just completely emulate head voice, it would have been me. How to completely emulate belt with head voice, it would have been me. But you just can never get all the way there. Yeah, of course you're gonna sound like bad and it's gonna sound like you're dying. I guess that's the last thing I'll talk about. Just general belt tips, unless there's any more trans-specific belt tips that anybody else in here wants. But there is the whole thing of like, how do I know it's safe? How do I know I'm okay? So look at all the muscles, and if you want to know about belting and accessory muscles and stuff, you can use like do the basics to make sure you know like you have to do something that's like that. And I can even make that noise like without I can make that without hurting myself. That's not inherently harmful. But if you feel like you have that much tension and you cannot pull away from it, like that tension just won't go away, that's a risk factor for leading to something harmful. And the way that helps to take tension away is like you can yawn and do other things to relax your voice. And you can also lean more on these like support muscles that I would recommend. Of all the people, I only recommend Lisa Pupille. I don't know as much about the other people, but I've just seen a lot of people like faking on the phone talking about like, well, if you use your inner like ocularis sphincter, then you can anchor that into the like the digastric muscle. Like, no, you can't. You can't. Well, no, the digastric actually is relevant. Let me think of what's the most completely useless muscle. The gastrocnemius. If you just anchor with your gastrocnemius, you can get this belt resonance. So if you get those muscles right, which is really not rocket science, just look at Lisa Pupille's stuff. Then you're at a good place to start doing the belting productively. And even if you start to hear ugly stuff coming out of your mouth and you do these belts, if it doesn't hurt, you're fine. Like I can make the most horrendous belting noise, and the belting noise that people most commonly come across is number one, the fry rasp distortion that happens because your vocal cords are getting sucked into each other. So you get this like, you get that. And I can do that like all day and all night. It actually feels kind of good. That feels good, but it feels like a massage inside my throat. But the other thing I can do is like the look what I can do. The other thing I can do is emulate like the breaking thing. So that's the number two is I can like have my voice be flipping back and forth. So like that's fine. That's just you switching chaotically between the registers. It's not like, oh, your cords are inherently damaging each other, because damage really doesn't make a sound. Okay, so I'm not gonna go like too deep in the belt because I want this to be primarily about like belt for trans people, especially MTF, where you have to just do so much constant vigilance of masking the size of your vocal cords, and belt is something where like the size of your vocal cords just like is completely cast naked. So hopefully these tips will be helpful. Again, summary for all the tools for trans voice MTF belting. Let me do screen share again so y'all can follow. Then I'm gonna call it a day. Oh my God, I've been on here for like 2 hours. Share. Lord. Okay. So belting and femme. So breathy doesn't really work. Like you can't really be loud in general with breath. There is a form of belting where you can be sort of breathy, but that's we're not gonna talk about that today. And don't neglect your chest voice if you want to get like that femme belt sound. You can do it. Like if anything like cis women can do in terms of like vocally, like trans women can do them too. Like vocal cords don't vary that much, that there's just some inherent biological thing. So if women are normally talking in chest, you can make your chest and make it sound womanly rather than trying to like avoid it. So just face the problem head on and like do things like opening your open quotient, like raising your open quotient inside of chest register. So do that a whole bunch, and it should come easier when you go to do it when you belt. So especially like the motor belts. Also, as a side note for head voice, if you are going to use it, just be aware that using heavy head voice is something that a lot of cis women tend not to do, because head voice tends to be grace notes. It tends to be like pretty notes that if I'm going to be not using belt, I would still want to make an impression. So I'm just going to do this extra toned up type of like thin wispy head voice. So keep in mind that if you're heavy and obviously in head voice and you're trying to emulate belt, I think that does like serve to masculinize your voice, because you get that sort of like Prince, like don't have to be rich to be my girl, like that's like it's just like don't have to be rich to be my girl. Like to me, the second one sounds more like what I would expect from a femme up in that range. And what I think works, so upper cushion again for lower belts, attenuation. So you have the covering attenuation where it sounds like further back. And I think Ariana Grande, like tight belters, the really pull back refined ones that don't want to sound like they're trying too hard. They have a lot of that, and to the point where people can even barely tell that they're belting. So like you can cover, which is like using sort of like your epiglottis to mask things along with other things in the vocal track, and that's sort of like belting uncovered, very bright in your face. Pulled back, it's like it's not as sort of bright and out there in your face. And then like using less vocal cord weight, that's something that you can get. Okay, I'm gonna get it right this time. I'm gonna drag up to a G4 and you'll hear that it's heavy, and I'm gonna drag down to a G4 and you'll hear that's lighter. If you drag continuously without like intentionally dropping weight, so like don't cop out. It's like don't cop out. So if you drag up, you're gonna get a heavier G4. But if you drag down, you don't do anything, you're gonna get a lighter G4. And so I'm using less vocal cord weight. At least that's what I think is happening when I do that sort of like drag down one. So you combine all that together, and you can get this sort of like Ariana Grande belting, like the never by the hands of a broken heart. Oh, last thing, bonus surprise, I forgot to mention. The dismount of the belt is the last feminization technique. I was tired when I made this outline, so forgive me. But the dismount of the belt is something that you can use to feminize. And then, like, I'll probably have like a separate thing just on offsets, where I could talk about them in all contexts. But belt offset is something that you can definitely feminize and gives a feminine impression. And that's something that I do. And I'm not trans. I wasn't trying to be trans. I just like the sound of it. But that's something that definitely like feminizes. When you release the belt with a sort of feminine grunt, you maintain this like sort of high larynx as you get off the belt. So if I do like a like that's a sort of like manly pull off the belt. So it didn't slow much, you could hear it. It's supposed to like a more femme. Oh crap! The first time I got it, second time. Okay, one more time. Okay, yeah. So that sort of breath grunt that people tend to get at the end of the belt, if you keep your larynx up, which is a vocal femme technique, again, Ziada, transvoice.com, look her up. I swear to God, she's bomb. Or Trans Voice Lessons. I'm going to get back to you on that. But I'll probably put her stuff in the description when I like archive this video. But yeah, you want to use those techniques on your voice as you release the grunt, because the grunt is going to be like a breath thing, so it doesn't have as many sort of like constraints that belting does. As I demonstrated, everything starts to become a soup when you go up in belt. So like, yeah, when you just your rat, I just took too many Benadryls, now I'm hallucinating. Yeah, dropping off the belt with that sort of like femme puff, I think is a good last thing to add on. Yeah, this has been great. I gotta go. Listen out for my podcast, which hopefully I'll leave in the description because there is some intersection because I still didn't really answer the question of nasopharyngeal resonance and really getting deep into Squilla or whatever for people that want to know more about it. Check out this podcast. And now I'm clicking around all these links trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. Okay, yeah, I'm about to turn this off. Nice talking with y'all. Hit me up on social media.